Hi everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. With the ongoing pandemic, we're realizing more and more how important it is for us to stay in touch, to communicate and be aware of each other. We just want you to know that BCTV, Brattleboro Community Television, is on board, and there are so many new programs, updates, and shows that are keeping us connected and in touch and aware of what's going on, where to go for help, and what's available in the community. So if you have any PSAs or information that you would like the station to know about, you can go to brattleboro.tv.org. You can follow us on Facebook, and you can submit any PSAs to info@brattv.org. So thanks for tuning in today, and I'm very happy to have today as our guest Rosalena Carignan. Rosie has attended Brattleboro Public Schools since kindergarten, and she's now a junior at BUHS. She's a 3-season athlete, she's treasurer of the Student Council, and she's going to talk with us today about growing up in Brattleboro and her experience in town. So welcome, Rosie.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. It's great to have you on. Thanks for being on, and for being flexible with times and everything. So, so you've grown up in Brattleboro, and you live actually in West Brattleboro, and you went to Academy School, which is it's a great little school. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about those early years of yours, what it was like growing up in, maybe even the difference between West Brattleboro and Brattleboro proper, how you liked Academy School, and any stories you might have from that time.
Yeah, of course. So I've lived in West Brattleboro for my entire life, and it's relatively close to Academy School where I live. So I would often walk to school or ride my bike with my sister, which was great. It helped me get outside, and that was just a great experience that I remember. When I was younger in elementary school, like kindergarten through 3rd grade, I loved my family so much, and I had a hard time sometimes leaving them and going to school. But Academy really helped me transition from being at home all the time to going to school all the time. And they were really kind, and I got a lot of support through that, and I learned how to be away from my parents and learn at school, meet new people, meet new friends. So that was really great.
Yeah, and it was really, I think it probably still is pretty much a neighborhood schoolhouse.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah, kids from that area go there. Yeah, that's nice. You know, I have a question for you. I don't know if you experienced this, but my daughter went to Academy, and there used to be peacocks that were part of Dalem's Chalet, which was up above the school. Did you ever see the peacocks there?
I never saw them at Academy, no, but that was funny.
Once in a while, they would wander down the hill and come out on the playground. So what kinds of things did you do when you were in elementary school? What did you get involved in?
I was musical in elementary school, and we had something called All School Sing, where once a week the entire school would meet together in the gym, and we would all sing songs. And I really enjoyed that because it was also a time for me to see my friends from other grades, and all the teachers would be there too. So it was a great time to see your old teachers and maybe teachers you would have in the future. So that was just a really great feeling of school community, and we would all come together and we would sing songs, and sometimes there'd be little like skits or shows that students would put on, and I did a few of those later on in elementary school, so I remember doing that.
Did you play any instruments, or was it singing?
Yeah. No, I did not sing, but I started playing trombone in 4th grade. That's when you could start playing an instrument, and I continued that until freshman year of high school, also trying out piano at one point, and the euphonium and tuba.
Oh, those are interesting instruments.
Yeah.
Trombone is really interesting. Did something inspire you?
My mom used to play trombone, so we had one in the house that I always played around with when I was younger. I never knew how to play it, but I decided to try and learn how.
That's very cool. When you were there, so this is K through, was it 5 or 6?
6.
Say K through 6. Were there any activities that you really liked in particular?
We had something called County Fair Day, which happened once a year. It was a field day with lots of games like tags and races, but it was also mixed with another sense of community where we would sometimes have the NECA circus come in, and we would have little shows, and it was all day outside, all the students together, and our principal would do some fearless act. One year he kissed a cow, things like that, and it showed the students that like you can do anything, and that was a fun thing. We did it every year, so I remember that too.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That was a big reach, I would think, to kiss a cow. So all the while you're obviously you're taking part in the community as well. And did you have like the heifer stroll started right around the time you were born, maybe a little bit before you were born? So
Yeah.
activities like that. What at that time, what was your relationship to downtown Brattleboro?
I would go to a lot of downtown events, all of the parades. My parents would take my sister and I too. She's 3 years younger than me.
Hmm?
We would go to all of those. For a few years, I was in the parade as a dairy fairy. You could do that when you were younger. And once I was in the band, I also would march in some of those parades.
Uh-huh. And did you also do like the Horribles parade and all of that, the Halloween parade?
Yeah, I do know of that. I think I went 1 or 2 years.
During your junior high years, what was that like for you? Was it a big transition coming from academy?
Yeah, luckily Academy was one of the largest elementary schools, so
Mm-hmm.
the transition wasn't very daunting or scary size-wise. There was like the same number of students, so it wasn't a transition from a small school to a large school as much as it was a transition from classroom environment. Because in my elementary school, you would take all of your classes with one teacher in one classroom. So one of the biggest things I remember is when going to bands, you would move around, have different teachers for each subject, and that's something that I really enjoyed because not only did you get to meet more teachers, you were able to create different kinds of relationships with them depending on the subject and what you needed to learn about the subject, what you liked about the subject. So that was one of the big things for me.
There's some great teachers in the middle school too. Yeah,
Yeah.
who some of which are still there. Looking back to when my daughter was there, which was in the 90s, so that was a while ago. Did you get into sports at that time?
Yeah, I started playing ice hockey in 6th grade.
Ice
So,
hockey?
yeah.
Wow.
So I played that through middle school, not through the school, but through the BHA, the Brattleboro Hockey Association. And I also played lacrosse in middle school through the rec department, and I did cross country running also.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
No soccer though, huh?
No soccer.
That's good. You didn't take any headers. That's important.
Yeah.
So let's go back to hockey a minute, because did you have an influence of some kind, someone you know, play ice hockey?
None of my family ever played ice hockey. I was the first one to decide to play, but I remember I used to go to public skating a lot at the Brattleboro rink with my dad, and sometimes right before or after that we would see hockey players practicing, and I just knew that it looked like a lot of fun and I wanted to try it out. And then I tried it and it was something that I just really enjoyed and I still play it.
That's so, oh, seriously. And is there a team? You're on a hockey team?
Yeah, for the high school, I play on that team.
School. Wow. So you have to get rink time, which I know is a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Getting up really early in the morning.
Yep.
And you're good with that?
Yeah, I like it. Sometimes it's hard to wake up that early, but I really love the sport and I love the team, so it's worth it to me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rigorous sport, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's definitely a more challenging one than people would expect, I think. And also it's very time consuming. There's lots of games during the season and there's practice almost every day.
Oh, wow. And are you traveling to different places to compete?
Yeah, mostly all in Vermont, but sometimes it's pretty far. We go to a place called Missisquoi, which is way up north near the Canadian border. So
Yeah. What's the most challenging thing for you about hockey and playing?
I think sometimes it's just overcoming fears.
Hmm.
While playing, it can be intimidating, or I'm on the smaller side, so when skating, it can be a little bit scary. But I've learned to block that out in a way.
So have you been trained to use your mind in that way, to focus your mind and your attention?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so. I think a lot of my coaches have focused on the skill,
Mhm.
but they've also taught us how to focus on the game itself, and we used the skills to
Hmm.
focus on the game.
And like you say, to move away from your fears and be more focused on what your skills, your technique.
I think all of it. I think that fear can hold you back sometimes,
Hmm.
and fear is regular. Lots of people have it, but I also think that if you can learn to be okay with it, then it helps you try new things or take new risks that can sometimes really help you out in the end.
Yeah. Do you have examples of that, Rosie? I'm just curious because I think that, going through when you're in school, especially like K through 12, you're learning so many different kinds of skills. And I'm just wondering, I had a ski jumper on the show a couple of years ago, and he talked about how this huge percentage he described being part of just getting your mind focused and concentrating.
Yeah, I think that that's really important. Something that I can apply that to is taking advantage of opportunities that may seem intimidating in school, particularly. In elementary school, I would have opportunities to speak out to the school or like sing a solo during one of my classes, and that would be really scary to me.
Yeah.
But it's also beneficial to do things like that because you can learn those skills of public speaking, of becoming more confident with yourself. So I think that if you take your fears, but then you overcome them, you can get a lot of benefits out of it.
Yeah, you usually get stronger, right? Rosie, it sounds like you got a lot of skills doing sports in general, and going into high school. I know that you've had a lot of leadership positions, actually.
Yes, I have. So, sophomore year, I decided to join the student council, and I nominated myself to become treasurer because I really like math, so I thought that it would be a good role for me. So I became the co-treasurer of the student council, and I helped plan and organize fundraisers and then carry them out. And I also just helped contribute to the role of student council of connecting the student body to the faculty. So
Oh,
that was great for me to do.
what kinds of things did you do to make that connection between students and teachers?
We would organize administrative lunches where both teachers and students could come together and eat lunch, and then students who had questions for the faculty could get direct answers, or vice versa. If the faculty wanted to hear a student voice, they would be able to hear it right there. So
That's-
we would organize that as a student council.
That sounds very cool.
Yeah.
That must have been very interesting too.
Yeah, it was. I've gone to them. They're very interesting.
Yeah. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, not as much now
Yeah.
since we're at home, but we do try to do them at least like once or twice a school year.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And during so that was last year, sophomore year,
Yeah.
right, when you were doing that. And I love what you said that you love math.
Yeah.
And also you did mention, we talked beforehand, you talked a little bit about math, that's how we're connected.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So I've always loved math from a very young age, but I didn't start thinking about why I loved math until I was older, probably around middle school. And I realized that I really like math because I think that it connects everyone, no matter where you're from or what language you speak, because math is always the same and numbers are always the same. So it's something that we can all understand.
Yes. Yeah, well, some of us can.
Well,
I
yeah,
wouldn't necessarily put myself in that category, but I can understand how, yeah, numbers are numbers, right?
yeah.
No matter what language it is. Which math do you like best?
I like calculus. This is my first year taking it, but I've learned a lot and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you see going forward with math in some way?
Yeah, I want to be an actuary. I'm hoping to go to college and major in actuarial sciences.
Uh-huh.
So that's my plan right now.
That's great. But you also are a reader. You've done a lot of reading and enjoyed reading.
Yes, I have. I really like chapter books and I've loved reading from a really young age,
Mhm.
especially dystopian novels like The Hunger Games. When those first came out, I would read those all the time with my mom and my friends.
Uh-huh. And you had a mother-daughter book club for a while?
Yes, I did
I love
for a
that.
while. We read books and talk about them.
Yeah, and did you trade off titles? Like, would you go from adult to young adult, back and forth that way?
Yeah, we would. I actually remember my transition from reading young adult books to some adult books. And I remember realizing that they were similar, but that they also had different themes and underlying elements. So that was really interesting for
Oh,
me.
I bet it was. I'll bet it was
Yeah,
interesting for your mom too.
yeah,
But to remember that transition, I think a lot of us do actually. But usually it was books that am I old enough to read this yet? That kind of book.
yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about dystopian novels and dystopia in general. And I think that it's so popular with young adults,
Yeah.
and I mean, it never used to be a genre, until not that long ago. So, could you talk a little bit about the appeal for you?
Yeah. So I've read a few, well, more than a few. I've read a lot of dystopian books, and the majority of the ones I've read have women as the main heroines, the main female characters, and they're generally very strong. They are independent, they rescue themselves, and that's something that really appeals to me because I consider myself a strong woman, and I like to think of my sister, my friends, my mom, all of them as strong women, and I think that these books really show that we've come a long way.
Dystopia in general, however, I think that it's a really interesting genre, and it's the opposite of utopia.
Yep.
And so this is about societies and organizations and communities falling apart, whether it's an earth change or something coming from the outside, chemical or bacterial or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and not to put too fine a point on it, but here we are.
Yeah.
And what do you how do you see the corollaries between what we're living through now and what you've read about?
Well, I think that what we're living through now is a very scary time, and a lot of people don't know what to do. But I think it provides countless opportunities to learn more, do more, but also bring our community together more. And
Mm.
all of the emails I've been getting from my school about updates about classes or anything like that, they always end it with, we're more than just a school and a building. Like our community is beyond that. We're all connected, even if we're all at home. So I think that this time it's almost an opportunity to become a dystopian novel or grow our community and make it even stronger.
Yes, I agree with you, and I think that we seem to be riding that edge a bit.
Yeah,
You feel that?
I do.
Yeah. And with the books that you've read, there are beginnings and middles and ends, right, to these stories. And what can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, because there must be something satisfying about the way these stories are constructed.
Yeah. So I like how they almost always end with hope towards the future.
Mhm,
Not everything is necessarily rebuilt or fixed,
mhm.
but there's generally the idea of hope that things will be okay. And I think that hope is important. And I think that these types of books can definitely, a lot of their themes can be applied to what we're going through right now. So I like how the books end like that.
Yes, and that's pretty much true across the board.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And so, being a fan of those kinds of books, and living through what we're living through now and being in our community, how do you see that playing out? How do you see people coming together, or what do you see as the challenges personally for this?
Well, I have tried to stay in contact with many people virtually, so I can see our community coming together, being stronger. I do think one of the largest challenges is not crossing over that edge we mentioned earlier and just keeping the community together because it's so easy to accidentally distance yourself too much or have a hard time staying connected. So I really think that those social connections, although they're extremely different now than they were before, I think that they're very important.
Yeah, how is it? How is it connecting with your friends? Because you must be doing a lot of Zoom and FaceTime and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's very different, and as a teenager, almost all of your world is social, so it's definitely took a long time to be accustomed to, but since it's been happening so long, I've gotten used to FaceTiming friends and things, and I think that it helps when you think about why you are doing it,
Mhm.
because you can see the curve flattening, you can see the results of your actions, the positive results of them. So even though it's very difficult, I think that it helps to understand the benefits of what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, and the other thing behind that is, which you're really touching on, is the fact that this is global, you know,
Yeah,
and we can't reach out to each other in the way that we've been reaching out, but in some ways we're reaching out to the whole world, as you say, by realizing here we are in Zoom. Normally, you and I would be in the studio, and we would be sitting next to each other.
right.
We don't have that. So, that's creating something that's new and different too.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. There's a lot of new waters, you could say, and people are all in it together, which I think is also uniting us because no one has experienced this before. So
Yeah.
we're all in the same boat.
Yes, we are. And, I think it would be really interesting. I hadn't thought of this before, but to be connected to people your age in different countries to see how they're doing. And I'm sure that people are doing that in some way. Um, but yes, to realize that, there's someone in Italy and there's someone in Israel and there's someone in Africa, who's your age, who's going through the same thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I have a friend who lives in Spain. She came here on a foreign exchange program last year, and I've been keeping in contact with her. And it's really interesting to see how we are all going through the same thing. And even if we have slightly different situations, we're all kind of struggling and helping each other together, which I think is really great.
That's what you're seeing.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
what I.
that's great. So in the course of a day, we've had what, about 6 weeks at
Yeah.
least, part of this now. I think it is more. Do you keep a schedule?
Yeah, I do. Monday through Friday, I'm almost always doing schoolwork. I'm very busy. And then on the weekends, I try to take a break. But I have a planner that I write things in.
That you have what?
I have a planner that I write things in.
You do.
Yeah.
Things that you are doing or things that you need to do?
Things that I need to do, I'll sometimes, if I have a very busy day, block things out by half-hour segments or hour segments,
Really?
depending when my Zoom meetings are. Yeah. I love organizing, which not a lot of people do, but I really like making plans and making lists and the satisfaction of crossing things off lists. I really like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you're pretty together on this.
Yeah.
Actually, Rosie, you're very together on this. I'm really impressed. Um, and do you get bored?
Yeah, I have gotten bored a few times. It's hard because you can't necessarily, there's not much to do at all. But I'm really grateful to have my sister
Yeah.
because we do a lot together. We spend a lot of time together, even more now than we have in the past. And she's
Mhm.
definitely helping me get through this time. So that's
Yeah.
good.
What kinds of things are you doing together?
We spend a lot of time outside. Sometimes we'll go for drives together and we play with my puppy. His name is Charlie.
Uh-huh.
So
That's
we
nice.
just pass the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And going back again a little bit to Brattleboro itself, and again because you're born and raised here and you've been here your whole life, have you noticed the town changing over the years? I mean, obviously your perception has changed with your different ages, but how do you see it as a town? Your experience of it?
I think that it's always been a town with a lot of opportunities for the youth. I think that the rec department is a great program and that there's always things for kids to do. And
Hmm.
I think that now, more than ever, they're doing a lot to try and keep the youth involved. And even though we're all at home, I feel like they've been doing a lot to try to bring us together. So I think that Brattleboro does a good job of uniting everyone and making us one community.
Mm. And is that the rec department in particular?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like the rec department. Both my sister and I have done sports through there. I was a camp counselor once I became older. I really like it. I think they provide a lot of great opportunities.
Do you spend much time downtown when we are up and running?
Yeah, I started going downtown with my friends probably in 5th or 6th grade. There's a lot to do. So you could go down there countless times and always have fun. So it's definitely something that I used to do a lot with my friends.
Yes, yes, and you will again, And I think uh, we're almost out of time, but I wonder, this is such a period of time when we don't know so much, and how do you see going forward? What are your feelings about going forward?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be tons of things that are different. And I also think that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. and not necessarily trust issues, but people are going to be hesitant before they go to big crowds again or take part in big events. And I think that is just going to be interesting to see what happens. I think there'll be an initial feeling of finally, like everyone's excited, but then they'll sort of realize that they've missed a lot of time, and these customs that used to be normal, people are going to fall back to what it used to be like and get nervous. So I think we just have to see.
I think that's one thing too. There are things that obviously we realize need to be changed. And so having the wherewithal to go forward, knowing that and making those changes. Rosie, this was great. It's wonderful having you on.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's really nice to hear your voice, and it's nice to hear what you're doing and what you're doing up at the high school. So hopefully we'll stay in touch and see you. So you're 16, but you're almost 17.
Yes, I turned 17 on May 12th.
Very soon. Very
Yes.
soon. Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, of course.
And thanks to all of you for being with us as well. And again, it's great to have Rosie on the show and to hear from young adults and their perspectives. So we're grateful for that, and we're grateful for you, for the audience, for you tuning in. Remember that BCTV has so much going on right now, and there's so much available. So anytime you're in front of the TV set, you can tune into our new channels, and also you can stream all of these shows. They are going to be around for a long time in our archives, so you can just go to brattleboro.tv.org to check them out. And we are a weekly show. Here we are, is on every week with a new guest. And so we look forward to seeing you again next week. And remember to tune into your neighbors. Thanks.